in black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. It can't change overnight. But we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year. I'ma make it count while I'm here. God is the only man I fear.
Hello, I'm Van Jones. I am an author, I'm an attorney, I'm the founder of a bunch of not-for-profit organizations. I'm also a TV host. But the most important thing I can tell you about myself right now, I am a black man in America in 2020. And that's a lot. And I'm raising 2 black boys in the United States of America. And I think we're at a moment where we can actually have a conversation about what that actually means. You know, black culture is celebrated. Black culture is beloved. The black experience that gives rise to that culture, I think is often disrespected, it's dismissed, it's minimized, or it's just not well understood. But I think we are now at a moment where there's a shift. We're going to have an extraordinary experience together today. We're going to do this town hall. It's called We the People. And what we want you to understand is we aren't just talking to talk. We want to talk so you can take action. And this is going to be an interactive experience. We're going to give you tools, information that you can use in the real world. We want you to screenshot stuff. We want you to invite people into this conversation because that's really, I think, what's needed. We need a bigger conversation, and we're going to use technology to do it. You know, for me, Black lives have always mattered. That's not new. Black lives have mattered from the beginning of time. What's new is the willingness of people to talk about it. And we have an opportunity to amplify the discussion and to move things forward, especially today. This town hall we're doing, We the People, is going to have some of the biggest voices for change in the country, all in the palm of your hand, including Killer Mike, who is just a legend in my mind. Jemele Hill is going to be here. We're also going to hear from Elaine Welteroth. Now, she's an author, but she's already made history. And she's made history because in the history of Condé Nast, with all the magazines they own and control, only 2 people have ever been named editor-in-chief, and she is one of them. So please welcome to this conversation, Elaine Welteroth. Look, I am so happy that I get a chance to have this conversation with Elaine. I mean, this sister is just bad. She's bad. She's a New York Times bestselling author, award-winning journalist. She's been a judge on the new Project Runway. I mean, she messed with Michelle Obama. She's just bad. So I want to talk to you about this moment. It's just been such a mix of inspiring protests and killings and stuff like that. Talk to us about your range of emotion over this past period of what I call this great awakening around justice.
It's been really heavy. It's been really emotional. You know, this is not new for Black people in America, right? We have been grieving for a long time around these same kinds of senseless murders. I wrote about, Philando Castile's murder, which really represents in my book. And I wrote about it from the perspective of being one of very few Black people in the office at the time when I was so devastated. So it was so hard to get out of bed that morning, let alone proceed as business as usual. And I wrote about what it was like coming into the office that day, expecting or anticipating that other people might be feeling some of what I was feeling, just as humans, as, feeling, thinking humans, and feeling like everyone was able to move on like business as usual. It feels so relevant once again now, thinking, 4 years later, here we are again. But the difference is that the response from the rest of the community, folks who are non-Black, are finally seeing this moment as a wake-up call to get off the sidelines and to get involved and invested in this fight for justice. So I can say that since being in the streets and attending a number of protests, there is something different in the air this time. There are a lot of emotions I think we're all moving through or trying to move through to get towards the collective action that we all need to take. There is so much work for all of us. So I think we're all feeling that pressure. We're feeling that weight. But I think we're also feeling empowered that this time has to be different. It has to be different.
You've been on this. I mean, you really have been not just an inspiration, but you've been offering really education to a whole new generation through Teen Vogue. And you were doing it when it wasn't. Now it's trendy. Now it's popular. But you were doing it when it wasn't trendy, when it was kind of shocking to see Teen Vogue taking on these issues. Why did you make that choice? Because you're saying other people now are going to have to make similar choices to be a little bit more brave and bold, but you were doing it when it wasn't cool. Why? And talk about that.
By speaking just about fashion, we were ignoring the range of interests that were central to them, the issues that matter to them in the world. And so we made sure that we were creating more of an intersectional feminist focus, and that included fashion and pop culture, but that also spoke to, you know, intersectional feminism and social justice issues. Black Lives Matter. You're right that there was no model for success for that at the time. There were a lot of people that were like, "Oh, Teen Vogue, talking about politics and justice issues," like, and we got pushback. You know, folks thought it wasn't our place to go, but the reality is that young people have been at the forefront of social justice issues for generations. It was certainly, I won't say scary, but there was an uncertainty about how it would pan out, but we knew that we had to do the right thing, and we felt like we had to be a part of the right side of history. And I'm very proud to say that we have been, and I'm so proud of the team there that's leading that charge today. But you're right in that I think a lot of companies are now confronting that same reckoning of, what do we mean now? How do we mean more to our community? How do we right size to make sure that we're meeting this moment? Serving our community and our audience, our consumers.
Well, let's talk about that, though, because you can actually give some advice to people who are working at these brands, whether they're at the top or whether they're the intern. You know, these brands are going to now have to do some of what you've already done. I mean, when you're a pioneer, that means you've been there, done that. What do these brands need to do to get relevant and to catch up to this moment?
So there's 3 steps I would say that any individual brand or corporation can follow. First of all, you have to take inventory of where you are. You can't be a part of a solution if you don't recognize how you are part of the problem.
Oh, you better preach. Can you say that one more time? Just preach.
I think like nobody wants to say they're racist. Nobody wants to I raise their hand and say, I haven't done my part here, or I recognize that I could do better. And so it's, I think, important to just acknowledge what you play, what part have you been playing in this, and take inventory. What does the complexion of your newsroom look like? Who's in your boardroom? Who has those board seats? And let's look at every level of management, all the way down to the intern level. Take an honest assessment of where we are. And I don't mean just looking at your campaigns. And so we have to push ourselves to go further. And so that's part of step 1 is taking inventory. Step 2, take ownership, acknowledging where you need to change, where you need to do better. And then the third step is take action, do better, commit to being a part of solutions that are going to move us from where we are to a better, more equitable future.
So, for example, Sephora said they're going to give 15% of their shelf space to Black-owned brands. Now, I think, to me, that's a lot. I mean, does that strike you as too much, too little? I mean, what is that when you talk about taking action? Is that the kind of action, or what kind of action might really meet the moment?
Is there something I can do with my contacts, with my experience, with my skill set? What can I uniquely do? I hope everyone's asking themselves that question. And one of my very close friends, Aurora James, and I were having a conversation when all the protests were kicking off about what we want to see from companies, because we were starting to see all the we stand with the Black community and Black Lives Matter was starting to come from companies that we're just like, how in the world is this by this corporation when they have 0 Black people in their executive leadership team? Something's not adding up. And so what we sat there and we thought about, what is our ask to brands? So Aurora James, who is my dear friend, and she is a Black business owner. She's a successful accessories designer. She and I spoke, and she decided that she was going to say, I want to start something. And this is the kind of the origin story for what became the 15% pledge. And now the 15% pledge, which Aurora James founded, and I'm working with her on, it's saying to corporations, specifically big box retailers, you need to go beyond making a statement to stand in solidarity with the Black community. You need to go beyond even a one-time donation. What we are asking for is 15% of your shelf space to be dedicated to supporting Black businesses, Black-owned businesses. That is a big ask. And the reason we decided 15% is because 15% of the population, nearly 15% of the population is Black. So let's see ourselves represented equally on your shelves. And it has been 3 weeks, and this thing has already exploded. It has gotten so much momentum, which is so exciting to see. Listen, I hope that we can empower Black business owners, because they are the most impacted during the coronavirus. And for anybody who's watching and wants to get involved with the 15% pledge, I really encourage you to go to the website 15percentpledge.org and sign the petition. So help us keep the pressure on these companies to continue to fuel money back into the Black community. And if all 4 of these retailers that we're targeting take this pledge, this will mean over $14 billion being funneled back into the Black community. So it is a really big mission, and we're really excited about the impact that we can make if we all come together and push brands to do the right thing right now.
Well, listen, I also want to thank you for what you're doing. I want to thank you for what you've been an educator, you've been an inspirer. Now you're somebody who's actually pioneering a pathway forward. You've got a commitment from these corporations because you have a commitment in yourself to change. And I hope other people take inspiration from you. Thank you so much for being here. We're behind you 100%. 100%.
Thank you, fan. I appreciate you, and you too. I'm such a fan of the work that you do. You're such an important voice, and I'm a fan. I keep doing what you're doing too. This is an honor to be interviewed by you, so thank you.
Hip hop is a universal sound, but it does a lot more than just entertain. Hip hop educates. Hip hop motivates. It's the voice of a generation, and every generation finds a voice in hip hop. And this new generation is no different. Atlanta artist Lil Baby has really stepped up to the plate. He's got a new song he penned in the middle of all this. It's called The Bigger Picture, and he put some visuals to it. Check out the video.
They training officers, the killers, then shooting protesters with these rubber bullets. They regular people, I know that they feel us. These scars too deep, they heal us. What happened to COVID? Nobody remember, it ain't making sense. I'm just here to vent. It happened to one of your people, it's different. We get it, the system is wicked, just learn how to pick it. Knowledge is power, I swear I'm a witness. I know that I'm gifted, I won't go too deep, cause I'm scared they'll get me. Ain't scared to admit it, somebody I can't mention. It's people who can. Well, here's the chance, I won't take the stand, but I'll take a stand for what I believe. Must not be breathing the air that I breathe. You know that the way that I bleed, you can bleed. I never been a fan of police, but my neighborhood know I try to keep peace. So it's only right that I get in the streets. March for a reason, I just on GP. How people die for us to be free. What do you mean? This was a dream. Now we got the power that we need to have. They don't want us with it, and that's why they mad. It's bigger than black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. It can't change overnight. But we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year. I'ma make it count while I'm here. God is the only man I fear. It's bigger than black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. It can't change overnight. But we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here. We done had a hell of a year. I'ma make it count while I'm here. God is the only man I fear.
Atlanta has been the epicenter and the hotbed really of a lot of change over the years, and especially nowadays. It's interesting to see how Lil Baby taps into the Atlanta right now and brings it to the screen. I mean, that is 2020. That is what it looks like right now in that town. And I think he did a beautiful job of capturing it. I think the lyrics of this thing are just off the charts. He's in Jay-Z territory at this point, Bob Dylan territory at this point. It's bigger than black and white. It's a problem with the whole way of life. It can't change overnight. That's a whole political theory. that's college. I mean, it's to understand it's not just a racial issue. It's a whole bunch of other issues going on. It takes time to change things. There's a level of wisdom there, and I think it just comes out. This generation has seen so much already. They've gone through so much already. They know it's not a simple thing. It's going to take a long time, but that's different than fight the power. My generation, our anthems were all like, we're going to turn it over today. We're going to make change tomorrow. I think this is a new twist on hip hop politics coming through in the song. You can't have a political movement without political music. It's just never happened. You go back to the labor movement, civil rights movement, women's rights movement. You always have musicians and artists step up, because a revolution is a change of heart first, before anything else changes in law and politics and government, in the economy. The first change has to be in the human heart. And that's what art does. Art moves you. Music moves you. And I'm just so proud that Lil Baby is using his platform to move this whole country forward and to move this cause forward. All right, my girl Jemele Hill is going to take over for me. She gets the honor. I'm kind of jealous, but she gets the honor of talking to and interviewing the great Killer Mike. He is an author. He's an actor. He's an activist. He's a musician. He's a living legend. Listen to Killer Mike.
I hope everybody out there has just been taking copious notes, gaining a lot of knowledge, taking some screenshots, because there's just been a lot of really good nuggets that have been shared. Hope you're inviting all your friends in and really having the kind of conversation in this country I certainly have not seen in my lifetime. And I'm curious to hear the thoughts of my guest right now, Killer Mike. Mike, we've been at this moment many times in our country where tragedy has struck. About this issue in particular, we've seen these videos before, but right now it feels like the world is just changing right before our very eyes. I can kind of imagine how some of our elders felt during the civil rights movement, to see the world just changing right before our eyes. So you're there in Atlanta, where certainly there was a recent incident with Rayshard Brooks. We've been absorbing everything that's been happening in the country up until this moment. So how are you kind of handling all of this emotionally right now?
Man, as an American, it's hard, because it's a growing pain of sorts. You know what I mean? We know that our country is progressing. We know that on the other side of that progression, that we all are going to be better. I think our community and people who are essentially descendants of the cornerstone of this nation. And the cornerstone of this nation is the Constitution is important, the Founding Fathers was important, but free labor allowed all that to stand. And as the descendant of a slave, and when I say descendant, I don't mean anything long. My great-grandmother taught me how to sew a button on a shirt as she was sewing blankets that we still use in my house. Her mother was born enslaved. So that's how close slavery is. I know how to sew a button because the slave taught her child to, and that child taught me to. That's how close. So I think that I'm excited that progress is happening, but I know on the other side of that progression, Breonna, Mr. Floyd, brother that was killed here, there are martyrs, and we've long been martyrs for the progression of this country. And I hope that as we enter into another martyrdom, another Black person has died at the hands of the state. I hope that, and not only when we're angry, I hope that coming out of, continue to organize in the time of peace like they are in time of war, because they're organizing effectively. They're causing systemic change in the immediate and not some protracted